So the hype train is officially pulling out of the station as far as it comes. Well, it's not out of the station, it's flying down the tracks. About Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and everything that's going to be happening with that. Things we might be seeing in the next handful of weeks. Definitely by, I think in 4 weeks at Game Awards. I think Game Awards is 4 weeks away. Something like that. 4 or 5 weeks away from Game Awards. Definitely going to see something there, I believe. Apologize for the hoarse voice. That's why I didn't get started on the full-time content creation thing yesterday. I had to start today because I did not have my voice yesterday. We all know about what Rebirth is happening right now, what's happening with the game, and everybody's speculating this and that. I'm excited to kind of just wait and see what happens with the story. We're so close to it now. But I did want to take a minute today to kind of talk about what we might be getting as far as like after the whole remake saga is over. You know, what kind of games might we be getting? What kind of spin-offs? Because I don't think they're gonna stop after the remake saga is done. I think they might take a little break. Then we're probably gonna get some spin-offs. One of the big things I think that we're gonna get two things. I think there are two things we're gonna get. Before I get started with that, a lot of you all have asked me about my streaming schedule, so here it is for the week. This will be my streaming schedule for the week. Tonight at 9 p.m. we're gonna get back into Star Ocean Second Story R, which is loads of fun. I played it Saturday night. I'm excited to get back into it. Sponsored by Square Enix, of course. Thank them for that copy of that. I really appreciate that. Then tomorrow night, 9 p.m., every Wednesday night up until the Rebirth stuff happening, we're going to be having a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth discussion stream every Wednesday night. Hump Day. I'm here for you on Hump Day. So we're going to get into that then. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this kind of, I got to thinking about this because we're not going to get to play as Vincent Valentine until the third game in this trilogy, right? And I was a little bummed about that, but I'm also not mad about it because I almost half expected it. But I think we will definitely get some sort of Dirge of Cerberus remake. I could see them going for that just to, you know, not to appease the Vincent Valentine fans, because they're gonna tell their story, they're gonna make their story, they're gonna make their game how they want to make it, correct? And that's what they should do, regardless of what we want. Of course, you do have to make the fans happy, but you also have to toe the line of sticking to your creative vision and telling your story. As a creator, I understand that, I respect that. Do your thing, Square Enix. But I think this would be really cool, and I think the seeds have been planted. Like, devs have discussed it here and there at Square Enix. I know Nomura spoke on it a little bit. He didn't say no. He said, we're going to have to get through this project kind of before we revisit any other FF7 titles, especially Dirge of Cerberus. That to me tells me it's not off the table, and I definitely think it's going to happen. There is a big opportunity with Dirge of Cerberus. The game could be great, and it's content that takes place 2 years after Final Fantasy VII story, and they said at the end of the remake saga you can lead right up to Advent Children, so everything is going to stick. So I think that might be why we don't see the Svets, all of them. We saw Nero and Vice, we saw them in whatever that was, right? In whatever you want to call it, intergrade, whatever their appearance was in that, whether it was just filler, whether it had something to do with the story, we can speculate on that later. We can speculate on that tomorrow night on the stream. But they could be holding all of them for a Dirge of Cerberus remake. And if they remake Dirge of Cerberus, this is a remake of Final Fantasy VII, right? So you can't kill all the Svets, you can't defeat all of them, and Deep Ground still has to be a thing later if they're planning a Dirge of Cerberus remake. If they're remaking the game, it will still take place in the same flow and the same storyline of the Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga. So I think that could be why they're holding off on all the Dirge of Cerberus characters. Like, everybody was like, why did we see Azul? Why did we see all these other characters? Patience. I think there is definitely 100% a Dirge of Cerberus remake that's going to happen. Now, When will we get it? I don't know. But however Vincent Valentine plays, we'll see how he plays in battle in Rebirth. We won't get to play as him, but we, kind of like Red 13, we will see how he acts, how he moves, how he plays, how he does his stuff, how he does his devil trigger. I've said numerous times, he just needs to play like Dante from Devil May Cry. That just balls the wall over the top, crazy action. Just do it like that. And I think whatever you do with the Dirge of Cerberus remake, I am not deviating from how he works in the battle system of Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga. Now, you can do more like gunplay stuff, you can do more targeting stuff with him if you want. Think kind of like how Metal Gear works, or how even Resident Evil 4 works. Like, you know, you got Leon, he handles a certain way, you got a sniper rifle and things like that. You can have Vincent play as he does in the action of Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga. Also, you can switch to like a sniper mode, you can switch to like a targeting mode if you have to target certain spots on things to really accentuate his gunplay. And I think they'll do certain things like that. I think that will be a little bit of what we get. So, Dirge of Cerberus, I think that is absolutely happening. Now, on to something, and you know, I didn't speak on Genesis, right? I didn't speak on Genesis because I still think we're going to see Genesis in the remake saga. And I don't, like I've said in my numerous videos before, I don't think he's necessarily going to be a bad guy. I think he's going to be neutral. I think he's going to be like chaotic good, almost, right? I've always said that I kind of want him to appear as like Auron did in Final Fantasy X. That's how I would like for him to act and interact and things like that. But again, if we're going to get a Dirge of Cerberus remake, the reason I visit this is because of that secret ending at the end of Dirge of Cerberus where Genesis awakens. Well, who knows what they're going to do? Maybe Genesis helps them in the remake saga and then puts himself to sleep, and then he awakens again at the end of Dirge of Cerberus remake. Who knows? That's getting way ahead of ourselves, way ahead of myself. So let's go on to the next thing. I think there is a good possibility that we could get an Advent Children game. We could get a Final Fantasy VII Advent Children video game, and that would be a sequel video game to Final Fantasy VII. Now, why do that, right? Why do that? Well, I think there was a lot of opportunity in the Advent Children movie that did not get explored. I think there was a whole lot. I mean, they could have been humming with the lore in that game. Like the fallout from Meteor, the fallout from Sephiroth, what's going on with Geostigma. You could have like a Geostigma meter, you know, you gotta monitor that stuff. I mean, there's a whole other aspect to what you could do with an Advent Children game. Not to mention, you've got 3 big bosses. You've got Kadaj, Yazoo, and Laws, right? And then at the end, of course, you would fight Sephiroth again, or whatever. Or however this plays out at the end of the remake saga. I don't think Sephiroth's getting redeemed. He is the big bad. He is the villain. He's Mario, Genova's the mushroom. I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. You feel free to debate me in the comments on that, but I will die on that hill. I will defend it to my last. But anyway, there's a lot of meat on the bone with Advent Children if you treat it like a game. You could get a 40 to 50 hour game out of Advent Children. You know, you could separate the triplets. You could go after them one at a time, you know, and then have a big battle, all 3 of them at the end before you get to Sephiroth. You could have the car chase, or you could have the motorcycle chase scene. You could do all that stuff. That would be hard. That would be a hard part of the game. You know, the whole dynamic with Shinra and having to get information from Rufus and the Turks, and maybe the Turks help you fight, and all this other kind of stuff, and having to rescue Sung and Elena. That would be like a mission. You can maybe rescue them. I mean, there's so many things, because Sung and Elena just kind of appear at the end after they were obviously captured by Kadaj, Yazoo, and Laws. One of many open-ended questions from that movie that you could answer with a video game, right? So, second on my list of things I think we're going to see after Final Fantasy VII. Dirge of Cerberus, Advent Children video game. I think it's not a lock. I don't think it's a lock, but I think it's a fun possibility because they're going to have the entirety of Gaia mapped out. They've got this huge map they're going to create for Gaia, and they're probably going to go Unreal 5 for the third game. I don't think they're going to... It's not a waste. For lack of a better term, I'm going to say they won't want to waste those assets, right? If they're going to build it in Unreal 5, I think they did like an enhanced version of Unreal 4 for Rebirth, I think is what they're working on. But I think the third game is going to be Unreal 5. And if you populate all those assets that you've been building for years and years, put it in Unreal 5, I think they'll want to get more mileage out of that. You could do an Advent Children game, and that would be how you get more mileage out of it. You could add more villages. You could go to the ruins of Midgar, as they're rebuilding Midgar or whatever. Other things could have happened around the planet because of the live stream coming out of the planet. It would be very interesting to travel the world of Gaia and play as a game in Advent Children and go through all of that. So I really do hope we get an Advent Children game. I think that's possible. Now, will that be Sephiroth's ultimate end? Like in Advent Children, the movie, no, it is not. So where do we go from there, right? If Advent Children, if they do an Advent Children game and it ends as Sephiroth ends and the game's like, I'll never be a memory, and it disappears. So where do we go from there? Or do you do an Advent Children game and you just beat him? That's it. That's the end of the story. Cloud smiles. Everybody lives happily ever after. You see Zack and Aerith's ghost at the end of the church. All this other kind of stuff. Geostigma's miraculously healed. Do you do that, or do you do one final game? And now we're talking like 2034, 2035 at this point. We're all getting pretty old at this point, right? So I think pushing it past Advent Children might be a little much. I think if you do an Advent Children game, let that be the end of the story, because we're all going to be pretty old at that point. Some of you might be, they're older than me, you might be retired at that point, might be able to sit around and play games all day. I don't know. But could they do a game after that to wrap everything up? They could. And I've seen people talk about this, and people brought it up in the chat a little, or people brought it up on live streams a little bit. We've discussed it a few times. But I think you hold strong at Advent Children. You could do a final game. It would have to be the tie-up. It would have to be the end. And I would make the characters a little bit older. I'd make Cloud a little more grizzled. Not hardened, because he's supposed to be getting back to who he is or whatever, But have it be some years later. Sephiroth reappears. There's another crisis or something terrible is happening. But anyway, I just wanted to address that other game because a lot of people have talked about it. And we might talk about it again at some point, but I don't think you push it past Advent Children. You create Advent Children into a game, and you make that be the end. Let that be the end. Finish it off there. Anyway, I wanted to touch on that today because I know a lot of you all have messaged me talking about possible spin-offs and things like that. We got Crisis Core Reunion, which was a really great remaster. They fixed a lot of things. I think if we get Dirge of Cerberus, it's not going to be a remaster. It'll be a remake of the game. Advent Children, original video game, and then I think you're done. I think you're done. Before Crisis fans, I think you just have to settle for whatever they give us in Ever Crisis, because I don't really see them putting time and AAA assets and stuff into making a Before Crisis game. I just don't see it. I don't. I'm a lore junkie. I love the lore, all the lore I can get, and regurgitating that lore and talking about it with you all. But I just don't think Before Crisis is going to. I don't think it's on their radar. I don't. I think whatever we get in Ever Crisis for Before Crisis will be their way of revisiting it, and I think we're done with that. So, anyway, Also, I would love a Turks game. I would love a random mission Turks game where they just update random missions every 4 or 5 months and just dump like 10 new missions in there or something like that, and you just play it at your leisure. I would love that as a Turks game. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on possible sequels or spin-offs in the Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Did I miss anything? Should I have touched on something I didn't touch on? Let me know. We'll discuss tomorrow night on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth live stream at 9 p.m. tomorrow night, Eastern Standard Time. Until then, you all have a great day. Be safe, be good to each other, keep rocking. And I will see you all in the next video, which will be either later on today or tomorrow. So, full-time content creator now, so look out. I'll catch you all later.
I want to say a quick thank you to my YouTube and Patreon members and supporters. If you would like to support the future creation of content on this channel, get some few extra perks and some art sent to your door every month, consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member. Details and links are in the video description.